now my great pleasure to introduce the goddess I already introduced, S Kovner. She and Ann Hess have raised more money for progressive candidates and gotten more women elected to national office than anyone I know. So I bow down to her. And Sarah is fired up about April 19th, so go get them, Sarah.
Thanks, Jerry. Is this working now?
Yeah.
Okay. I have the dry part. I'm going to tell you how to vote so that you know how to tell other people how to vote. Convention delegates are selected differently in every state. Well, not in every state, but in many states. So we're concerned about New York on April 19th. In New York, we have 293 delegates who will go to the convention. They're chosen in 3 different ways. You don't have to memorize it all, but you just should understand it. So when people are talking, Trump particularly, or Sanders, about one group of delegates or another, you know what they're talking about. So the first group is 163 delegates who will be chosen on April 19th. And they are divided among New York's 27 congressional districts. Within each congressional district, the delegates are apportioned between the 2 candidates based on the votes for Hillary and the votes for Bernie, obviously, in the primary. The second group of delegates is 84 delegates, and they're selected by the Democratic State Committee at its meeting in May. The third group is 44 superdelegates, so-called superdelegates. They're really automatic delegates. They're the Governor Cuomo, our 2 senators, Chuck and Hillary, the members of the Democratic members. Chuck and Hillary, I'm reverting to the old days, Chuck and Kirsten. I'm thinking back to 2007.
We were listening.
You were listening, exactly, that's a good point. And the members, Democratic members of Congress from New York, plus some members of the Democratic National Committee, and I happen to be one of those. So I may be the only one here. So how does this really work? When you go into there's no booth anymore. When you go to vote on April 19th, you're going to have 2 things that you have to do. The first is you have to vote for Hillary. That's the first. And, it'll be Hillary Clinton on the ballot. Check off that box. Bernie will also be on the ballot, but if you're in this room, I assume you're not voting for Bernie. So you vote for Hillary. Next, you have to vote for the delegates. And you'll see 2 slates, 2 lists, really, of delegates. One committed to Hillary and another committed to Bernie. I'll explain a little more about that later. Those will be pledged delegates. So depending on the congressional district that you're in, there will be either 5, 6, or 7 delegates to vote for. And the reason there's a difference is it's based on how big a Democratic vote came out in the presidential race in 2012. So a very heavily Democratic district would have more delegates than a less Democratic district. So whatever the number is there, that's what you vote. Again, within each congressional district, the 5, 6, or 7 delegates will be allocated between Hillary and Bernie based on the votes the presidential candidate gets in that CD. So then, I'll give you an example. Jerry Nadler's district on the west side in Brooklyn, and this holds for any of them. There are 6 delegates running for Hillary. And let's say Hillary gets 70% of the vote next to her name, or you check off her name. Sorry to be so anal about this, but a lot of people don't understand you've got to vote for her and the delegates or it doesn't count. So let's say 70% of the people in that congressional district vote for Hillary. And there are 6 delegates running. She will get 4 of them. She won't get 8, and she won't get 6, because she didn't get 100% of the vote. She got 60% of the vote. So the number of delegates she gets really hinges on how many votes she gets next to her name. And it's all proportional. So who will they be? When you vote for Hillary delegates, you're voting for each individual delegate. So let's say the first delegate has pick the one that has the highest vote total. It may not be the number 1 on the list, the highest vote total. Let's say that's a man. The next highest woman, the next woman with the highest total is the next delegate. And that alternates, man, woman, or woman, man, whichever way it goes.
Is that just in New York?
In New York. This is in New York. If there are only 3 delegates that she wins, or 5, then obviously you've got an imbalance, which is going to get corrected later. All of these delegates are pledged to Hillary, and that means they're pledged on the first ballot. It's unlikely, but in some cases, if a candidate doesn't get up to more than 15% in the whole congressional district, they get no delegates. So then the other person would get all of them. Now, to the Democratic State Committee meeting in May, 84 delegates get elected there, selected really, at that state committee meeting. The state committee is a democratic body. It's composed of 1 man and 1 woman from each assembly district, not congressional, assembly district. So there are 300 of them in the state. You voted for them probably in the last primary. You don't remember it, or you didn't pay attention, but probably you vote. That's how they get elected, in a primary. So it's a representative body. These delegates will be awarded proportionally between Hillary and Bernie, based again on that statewide vote on April 19th. So if Hillary got 60% of that statewide vote on April 19th, then she's going to get 60% of these 84. That's why April 19th is really key to all of it. She'll get 60% of those 84 delegates. I won't do the math, I'll leave it to you. But because the Democratic Party is Democratic also with a small d, at the convention, half the delegates have to be women, and half presumably men, and that includes and transgender, whatever they are, in whichever category they are. That includes representation of various minority groups, people of color, Hispanics, American Indians, Asian Pacific Islanders. They all have to be represented in certain proportions to the population. When you look at that at our convention, you'll see that kind of representation, which you won't see when you look at the Republican convention at all. They don't have any such rules. So to be pledged, those first 2 groups are pledged, and what it means is that they have to vote for Hillary on the first ballot, or if they're elected for Bernie on the first ballot. This is what Trump is fighting against now. There's one last group of delegates, and that's 44 so-called super, but I'd call them automatic delegates. They're, again, the 2 senators, this time I'll get it right, and Chuck and Kirsten, and the governor, and the Democratic members of Congress, and again, the members of the Democratic National Committee. They are not pledged. They can pledge themselves individually. They have, any pledge that they make now is not legal. It's not binding. It's not, yes, right, exactly. It's not binding. What's binding is what they do at the convention. The Sanders campaign is making a very big pitch on these super delegates. They're saying that since he won Vermont so well, I mean, he's won other states, but I'm just picking Vermont. I didn't mean it to be facetious, but he won Vermont overwhelmingly, that the super delegates from Vermont should be voting for him. And many of them don't want to. What they'll do in the end, I don't know. But we obviously are not going to let that happen in New York, because we're going to win, and we're going to win big here. But the bigger we win, right, and that's my clap there. The bigger we win, the bigger the story is on the night of April 19th, when 10 minutes after the polls close, somebody projects Hillary the winner. We want them to say Hillary won big in her home state, not Bernie Sanders came close. And that's why it's important to explain all of this to people. So what we're asking you all to do today, and I'll take questions later because I know it's confusing. What we're asking everybody to do today is become a campaign of your own. Take it upon yourself. The campaign will ask you to do other things, but take it upon yourself to reach out in every way you can. Jerry talked about our original premise, talking to the people we know and saying, we know Hillary, we know Hillary, and therefore we have a strong opinion about why she should be president, And we're asking you to understand that and giving you the information and answering any questions you have to get you to make that commitment. So if you tweet, or if you Facebook, or if you, I know Facebook is not a verb, if you go on Facebook, if you email, pick up the phone and call friends. Somebody you think could be a real go-getter somewhere upstate, give them a call on the telephone. Just don't rely on texting them, and ask them to get involved. And ask them to do what you're doing. The more people, as Jerry said, and it's absolutely true, my years of experience, the best emissary for a candidate is somebody that the voter knows. And if the emissary knows the candidate and the voter, you can make that connection. That's really powerful. And that's what we're asking you to do. Become your own campaign. The campaign itself has other things that they're going to ask you to do. And is Minnie here?
I'm here.
Oh, Minnie's there, I'm sorry. You were hiding behind Jerry. Yeah, right. We're very fortunate. Minnie Timaraju from the campaign, she's head of women's outreach, and she's going to give us some more marching orders. But for the men who are here and the men in our groups, and the Hillary, we know we do have some men, I think they're going to be welcome.
We love our men.
We love our men, and they're going to be welcome in the women's outreach effort. So Minnie, you want to say a few words?
Yeah.